Leora stood at the edge of the high terrace, her violet eyes scanning the city below. Silver towers glittered in the light of three suns, and streams of flying vehicles zipped through the sky like glowing fish in a river. From above, everything looked beautiful, perfect and orderly. Yet in her heart she felt like she didn't belong. Every year her society held the choosing ceremonies, where young aliens were paired with their lifelong mates. These ceremonies were the pride of her planet. Only those with the right appearance, the right skills, and the right family lineage were considered suitable. And every year, Leora was ignored. Not a single gaze turned her way. She had watched her peers celebrate their matches. The other girls, graceful and confident, were admired for their shimmering skin patterns and their family status. The boys, strong and clever, had lines of hopeful suitors waiting for them. Leora had neither the pattern that dazzled the elders, nor the noble lineage that opened doors. She had tried to follow the rules. She had smiled at the right people, attended the right gatherings, learned the traditional dances, and even practiced the polite words for years. Still, she was always overlooked. "They say she is too different," whispered one of the city girls, her tone sharp. "Her eyes, they are strange. Her mind, too curious. She will never find a match." Leora's heart sank, but she did not reply. Words could not change how she felt inside. She longed for something more than the narrow expectations of her society. She wanted freedom, adventure, and someone who would see her for who she truly was, not the sum of her family or her skin pattern. That longing carried her to the outer terraces, far from the city's bustle. Here the air was cooler and the view stretched beyond the planet's edges into the glittering stars. She often came here to dream. She imagined flying through space, visiting distant worlds, meeting beings unlike any she had seen before. She imagined a life where she could make her own choices, where no council or tradition would decide her fate. One day, while staring at the stars, a strange sight appeared in orbit. Ships unlike any she had seen hovered near the space station. They were angular, not sleek, and had a warm, soft glow. Rumors spread quickly. Humans had arrived. Humans. Her people had studied them for years from afar. Small, fragile-looking creatures with pale skin and simple features. Yet they had done incredible things, traveling through space, surviving hostile planets, building communities without strict hierarchies. Leora felt a spark of excitement. She had never seen a human in person. She wanted to see them up close, to study them, to understand how they lived. Perhaps they could show her a world different from her own, a world where she might fit. At the ceremonial hall that night, the city was alive with excitement. Elders spoke of the human visitors, of how their simple ways could be instructive to their civilization. Everyone waited for the human diplomats to appear. Leora pushed her way through the crowd, keeping her eyes on the sky where the humans' ships hovered. When the doors finally opened, a group of humans stepped inside. They moved differently from the aliens, upright, careful, and yet relaxed. Their eyes were full of curiosity, not judgment. And then she saw him, Ethan. He was tall by human standards, with dark hair and a gentle, honest expression. He smiled at the crowd politely, but when his gaze briefly met hers, Leora felt something she had never felt before: recognition. It was as if he saw her, not the silver skin, the unusual eyes, or the societal label of outsider, but her, the real Leora. She tried to look away, embarrassed by the feeling, but her curiosity pulled her forward. She watched as he spoke, to the elders, answering questions about human culture with patience and intelligence. He seemed simple, yet brilliant. During the ceremony, Leora's thoughts wandered. Everyone else seemed so concerned with status, rules, and appearances. But Ethan, he listened, he understood. She wondered what it would be like to speak with him, to share her ideas and dreams. After the ceremony, the crowd began to disperse. Leora lingered near the edge, hoping for another glimpse of the humans. She noticed Ethan walking alone, examining a holographic map of the city. Summoning courage, she approached. "Excuse me," she said in the common language. Her voice sounded small to her own ears. Are you from the humans? Ethan looked up, his dark eyes meeting hers. A faint smile appeared. Yes, I am. My name is Ethan, and you are? I am Leora, she said, bowing slightly in her formal custom. I have read about humans, but I never thought I would meet one. Ethan's smile widened. I'm glad we met. I want to learn about your world. Perhaps you could show me? Her heart leapt. Nobody had ever asked her to guide someone, let alone a human. She felt a warmth spreading in her chest, a feeling of being seen, of mattering. Yes, she whispered. I would like that. For the next hour, she showed him parts of the city that were hidden from the public. They walked on terraces lined with glowing plants, over streets filled with floating vehicles, past fountains that shimmered with liquid light. Leora explained traditions, myths, and customs. Ethan listened carefully, asking questions, laughing gently at her jokes and sharing stories of his own world. She found herself laughing freely, forgetting the shame of being an outsider. With Ethan, she didn't have to follow the rules. She could just be herself. The sun began to set. 3 golden and orange lights stretched across the sky, reflecting in the pools of the terrace. Ethan turned to her. Your world is incredible, Leora, but I sense you don't belong in the part of society that ignores you. Leora's heart ached. You are right. I have never felt like I belonged. Not in ceremonies, not in my family's expectations. I am always left out. Ethan nodded. Maybe that's because the right place for you is somewhere else. Maybe it's with people who see you for who you really are, not what you are, supposed to be. Her violet eyes widened. No one had ever spoken to her this way. The words felt like sunlight after years of darkness. Perhaps, she said softly, I could find that place. Ethan reached out, a simple gesture that crossed the divide between species. Maybe you already have. Perhaps it is right here. Leora looked at him, and for the first time she allowed herself to hope. Maybe, just maybe, she was no longer alone. Maybe her life could be different. Maybe the humans were not just visitors. They were a key to a new beginning. As the night deepened and stars shimmered above, Leora and Ethan sat on the terrace talking quietly. For the first time in her life, she felt a connection that no tradition, no rule, and no expectation could ever deny. The morning sun rose over the silver city, casting long golden shadows across the terraces. Leora walked quietly through the streets, her mind still spinning from the events of the previous night. Meeting Ethan, a human, had changed something deep inside her. She could not stop thinking about his calm smile, his kind eyes, and the way he had listened to her like no one ever had. She knew the others would disapprove. Her family, her peers, the elders, all would see this fascination with a human as strange, even dangerous. But a spark had lit in her heart, one she could not ignore. Ethan, meanwhile, was not far away. He wandered the city, taking notes in a small holographic pad, observing everything carefully. Unlike the aliens, he did not move with the rigid grace of centuries of tradition. His movements were relaxed, almost clumsy by alien standards, yet full of purpose. He paused to admire a floating garden, touched the glowing leaves, and smiled to himself. Later at the human embassy, Leora returned. The humans had set up a small area for study and observation. Curiosity drew her back. She wanted to learn more about them, to understand why their ways were so different, so free. Ethan noticed her immediately. You came back, he said, with a grin. I was hoping you would. I wanted to see more, Leora replied, her voice soft. And to talk with you. They began to walk together through the embassy gardens, a small green space filled with alien and human plants, carefully arranged in harmony. Leora explained the meanings behind the plants, the symbolic rituals, and even the etiquette of alien greetings. Ethan listened with fascination. asking questions about everything from their art to their history to the strict rules of their choosing ceremonies. "You are very different from the others," he said gently. "You don't seem to care about what they expect from you." Leora laughed softly. "I do care, sometimes. But I cannot follow the rules that feel wrong. I want something more. Something real." Ethan nodded, understanding more than she expected. "I think that is the best choice anyone can make. To be true to themselves." Her heart raced. Humans were different. They did not judge her, did not see her as an outsider. With them, she could speak freely, laugh freely, even dream freely. And for the first time, she felt the possibility of happiness. Over the next few days, their meetings became more frequent. They explored hidden parts of the city together, the floating markets filled with rare spices and fabrics, the quiet libraries with scrolls older than anyone could remember, and the star-viewing terraces where the city lights melted into the infinite sky. During one walk, Ethan stopped at a fountain. The water shimmered with colors that shifted like rainbows. "In my world," he said, "we see beauty in the simple things. Water, light, trees. They are alive, just like us. We don't need rules to tell us what is valuable." Leora watched the water ripple under his hand. We have rules for everything. Who we marry, how we speak, even how we feel. It is meant to keep us safe, but sometimes it feels like it traps us." Ethan smiled. "Perhaps the trap is not the rules themselves, but the belief that they must define who we are." Leora's eyes widened. Nobody had ever spoken like that to her. It felt as if a weight she had carried all her life had lifted slightly. She wanted to learn more, to understand this strange, gentle human philosophy. But the world around them was not silent. Rumors spread quickly. Alien eyes, sharp and watchful, noticed her long absences and her unusual interest in a human. Whispers followed her through the streets. "Did you see her yesterday?" One girl whispered, her voice full of malice. "She walks with the human again. Does she think she can ignore tradition?" "Perhaps she has lost her mind." Another added, "No one chooses to associate with humans. It is dangerous. The elders will hear of this soon." Leora felt a pang of anxiety, but she could not stop herself. She wanted to be near Ethan, to speak with him, to feel what it was like to be truly seen. One afternoon, they visited a small park at the edge of the city. Trees with silver leaves swayed gently, their reflections shimmering in a quiet pond. Ethan knelt to examine a flower. "Your planet is incredible," he said softly. "It is full of life, yet somehow still organized. But there is beauty in chaos too, in choice." Leora knelt beside him, touching the petals. "I have never been allowed to make my own choices. I have always been told what to do, who to marry, where to go. And every time I try, they ignore me." Ethan looked at her, his expression serious but kind. "Perhaps they cannot see you clearly, but you can see yourself. And sometimes, that is enough." She felt her chest tighten. Nobody had ever spoken to her with such understanding. Her mind raced with questions. Could she ever escape the expectations of her society? Could she truly follow her heart? Days passed and their bond grew. They laughed together, shared stories, and debated ideas about the universe. Ethan spoke of distant worlds humans had explored, of societies built on trust, choice, and cooperation. Leora shared the rich history of her people, the songs, the dances, the rituals, and her frustrations with the limitations placed on her life. Yet, the pressure from her society grew. Her family began to demand explanations. "Why do you spend so much time with the human?" her mother asked one evening, her voice tight with worry. "It is improper. It is dangerous. You could be disgraced." I like him," Leora admitted, her voice trembling. "He listens to me. He understands me in a way no one else does." Her mother sighed. frustration and fear in her expression. He is not one of us. You must remember your duty. You cannot simply follow your heart. But Leora had already made a choice in her heart. Duty felt heavy and suffocating. Ethan's presence felt liberating and alive. One night, as the city slept under a blanket of stars, Leora and Ethan met on the highest terrace. The winds were cool, and the stars stretched endlessly above them. I feel something I cannot explain, Leora said quietly, staring at the endless sky. I have never felt this before. With you, I can breathe. Ethan smiled, gently taking her hand. That is the human way. We follow what we feel. We trust our hearts. She looked at him, her violet eyes reflecting the starlight. But your world, and mine, they are so different. Can we really be together? Ethan shook, his head softly. Perhaps we will face challenges. Perhaps others will not understand. But we can start by being honest, by being true to ourselves. That is always the first step. Leora felt a warmth spread through her chest. She had never been allowed to take the first step before, never been allowed to choose. Now with Ethan she could. The next morning, rumors had reached the council. Leora's interactions with the human diplomat were being watched more closely. Some elders were curious, others alarmed. Human ways were strange and unpredictable, and the council feared what influence they might have on young aliens. Leora noticed the subtle glances, the hushed whispers, but she refused to let them frighten her. She had discovered something precious, a bond built on choice, respect, and understanding, and she would not give it up lightly. As she walked through the city that day, she felt a new sense of courage. She was no longer just the outsider who was ignored in ceremonies. She was someone who could choose her own path, someone who could reach for more than tradition allowed. The city was quieter than usual, but the tension in the air was thick. Whispers followed Leora wherever she went, like tiny shadows reminding her that the eyes of her society were always watching. She had expected curiosity, even suspicion, but the reaction now felt heavier, more pressing. Her walks with Ethan, once secret and sweet, were no longer hidden from everyone. Other aliens had noticed, and rumors spread like wildfire. Leora's mother had tried to reason with her again. You are being reckless, she said, her silver eyes hard. Humans are unpredictable. They do not follow our rules. If you continue this, you will bring shame to our family. Leora's jaw tightened. I am not ashamed, she replied softly. I have never been proud of fitting into a system that ignores who I am. With him, I am alive. I am seen. That is more important than rules. Her mother looked away, frustration and fear warring in her expression. You do not understand what you are risking. The council will not forgive this. Leora's heart pounded, but she did not turn back. For the first time, she refused to be controlled by fear. She had tasted freedom, and she would not give it up. That evening, she met Ethan on the terrace overlooking the city. The sky was painted with the colors of the setting suns, a mix of gold, crimson, and violet. The city glowed below, a web of silver light and shadow. Ethan turned to her, his face calm. They are watching, aren't they? Yes, she admitted, gripping the railing. Everyone knows now. Some are curious, some are angry. But I cannot stop myself from being with you. Ethan reached for her hand, a simple gesture that carried strength and comfort. Then we face it together. That is what humans do. We stand by those we care for. She smiled, her heart swelling. I want that. I want to stand with you, even if it is dangerous. The following days were tense. Alien elders called her family to council meetings, questioning her loyalty and judgment. Leora herself was summoned. She walked into the council chamber, her silver skin shimmering under the pale light, her violet eyes steady. Leora, an elder began, her voice firm and cold. You have chosen to associate with a human, against our rules and traditions. Explain yourself. Leora took a deep breath. I have chosen to speak with someone who listens, someone who sees me for who I am, not what I am supposed to be. Is that wrong? Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Some aliens gasped, some shook their heads, but a few remained silent, listening. Your actions are reckless, the elder continued. The choosing ceremonies are sacred. They ensure the survival and order of our society. By ignoring this, you bring risk not only to yourself, but to our people. Leora's gaze did not falter. I do not reject my people. I respect them. But I cannot allow rules to dictate my happiness. I have the right to choose my own path. I have the right to choose love. Silence fell. Her words were bold, dangerous, but undeniably true. After the council, she returned home. The city felt different now, more suffocating and constricting, but also alive with possibility. She had spoken her truth, and there was no turning back. Ethan awaited her on the terrace, as he always did. You were brave, he said quietly. I have never seen anyone face tradition the way you did. I had to, Leora admitted. I cannot live a life that is not mine. They spent the night talking about their dreams, imagining a future together despite the obstacles. Ethan spoke of humans exploring distant worlds, of societies where love and choice mattered more than status or lineage. Leora shared her longing to travel among the stars, to see new planets, to experience life fully. Yet danger was near. The council's warnings escalated into threats. Arranged matches were offered to her as a corrective measure, prestigious mates from noble families, designed to steer her back into the expected path. Leora's peers whispered cruelly, mocking her choice. One evening, her assigned suitor approached her. He was tall, handsome, and powerful, with skin that shimmered like polished metal. You are making a mistake, he said, his voice smooth but firm. This human cannot offer what our traditions provide. Accept the arrangement. It is for your own good. Leora looked at him, steady and unwavering. No, I will not choose what I do not want. I will not marry someone because of rules or status. I will choose who I love, and that choice is Ethan. The suitor's eyes narrowed and he turned away, clearly frustrated. Word spread quickly of her defiance. Some admired her courage secretly, while others whispered about her recklessness. Despite the tension, Leora felt a new strength within her. She had never spoken so boldly, never stood so firmly for her own heart. And yet fear still lingered. What if the council refused to accept her choice? What if the humans left, or worse? What if she was forced into exile? Ethan found her in the gardens the next day, his presence calming. You are strong, he said, taking her hand. We can face anything together. Leora's eyes glistened. I want to believe that, but the world may not let us be. Ethan smiled softly. Then, we show them that our bond is stronger than fear, that love, choice, and trust can overcome tradition. Days passed and their secret meetings continued, each one more precious than the last. They explored hidden libraries, studied star charts, and talked about human and alien societies. Leora's heart expanded with each encounter. She had never felt so alive, so understood, so free. Yet the pressure mounted. Elders visited her family daily, warning of consequences. Peers spread rumors, creating a web of tension around her. But Leora refused to hide, refused to retreat. She had made her choice, and she would see it through. One night, under the glow of the 3 moons, Leora and Ethan sat on the highest terrace. The city stretched below them, a maze of lights and shadows. Ethan turned to her, his expression serious. You are ready for something? He said gently. Something important. Leora's heart skipped a beat. What do you mean? Ethan took her hands in his. You have chosen to defy tradition, to stand for yourself. But the next step is not just defiance. It is a declaration, a choice that cannot be taken back. Leora's eyes widened, her breath catching. She knew what he meant. She had thought about it countless times, dreamed of it, and now it seemed real. She whispered, her voice trembling. I do not know if I am ready. Ethan smiled, patient and reassuring. You are. You just have to trust yourself. The wind picked up, brushing through her silver hair, carrying the scent of the city and the night sky. Leora looked at Ethan, his dark eyes filled with trust, hope, and patience. She felt the weight of centuries of tradition pressing on her, the fear of her society watching and the uncertainty of the future. And yet she felt a spark of courage, a small, fierce flame in her chest that whispered, "This is my choice. My life, my heart." She squeezed his hands. "Then I will do it. I will make the choice that no one has allowed me before. I will ask you something that could change everything." Ethan's smile widened, gentle and encouraging. "Then I will answer, whatever you choose to ask." For the first time in her life, Leora felt entirely in control of her destiny. The path ahead was uncertain, dangerous even, but it was hers. She had chosen courage over fear, truth over conformity, and love over obedience. The stars above glimmered, a reminder of the vast possibilities waiting beyond the city, beyond the rules, beyond tradition. Leora felt a rush of hope, excitement, and fear all at once. Tomorrow she would take the next step. Tomorrow she would ask Ethan the question that would change both their lives forever. For now she sat on the terrace, hand in hand with the human who had taught her to believe in choice, and stared at the endless sky, imagining a future where love could defy all expectations. The city had changed. Whispers now followed Leora wherever she went, growing louder, sharper, like a storm gathering strength. Every glance from her peers felt like a judgment. The elders were watching closely, and even her family seemed torn, between worry and pride. Leora felt the weight of it all, yet she refused to back down. She had made her choice, and no one, no tradition, no council, no peer would make her regret it. She had discovered something far more valuable than approval, the freedom to follow her heart. Ethan waited for her on the terrace, as always. His dark eyes held concern, but also trust and patience. "They are watching," he said quietly. "The council has sent word to your family." "I know," Leora replied, her voice firm. "I expected as much, but I will not be afraid." They walked together to the edge of the terrace overlooking the city. Below, alien vehicles moved like silver fish in the golden light, and the three suns bathed the towers in a warm glow. It looked peaceful, but Leora knew the world below was restless. The next day, the council summoned her to the grand chamber. The room was immense, filled with elders whose eyes glimmered with authority and expectation. Leora walked in with her head held high. She had rehearsed what she would say, but nothing could fully prepare her for the tension in the air. "Leora," the head elder began, her voice cold and precise, "your actions have caused unrest. You associate openly with a human, against the traditions that bind our society. Explain yourself." Leora took a deep breath. "I am not trying to cause unrest. I am simply choosing my own path. I am choosing love. I am choosing to be true to myself." Murmurs filled the chamber. Some elders leaned forward, intrigued. Others frowned, anger flashing in their eyes. One elder spoke sharply. "Your defiance threatens the order of our society. The choosing ceremonies exist for a reason. You reject that order." "I respect the traditions," Leora said, her voice steady. "But I do not believe happiness can come from rules alone. True happiness comes from choice, from trust, and from connection. I have found that connection with a human, and I cannot ignore it." The chamber fell silent. Her words were daring, dangerous even, but undeniable. Leora felt a rush of courage. For the first time, she was not just an outsider, she was someone who dared to challenge the expectations of her entire civilization. After the council meeting, her peers confronted her. Some were angry, some curious, and a few quietly admired her courage. "Do you not fear the consequences?" one whispered, her eyes wide. "I do not," Leora replied. "I am not afraid of living my truth." That is worth more than any approval or tradition. Meanwhile, Ethan continued to support her, showing patience and understanding. He introduced her to human philosophy, stories of courage, and the belief that love and choice were powerful tools, capable of changing entire societies. Leora absorbed every word, feeling a fire ignite inside her. As the days passed, the council intensified their pressure. Her family was urged to arrange her with a prestigious suitor from a noble lineage, a perfect match by society's standards. Leora's peers mocked her for daring to defy expectation. Even some members of her family questioned her judgment, but Leora's resolve only grew stronger. She had experienced something profound, a bond built on trust, understanding, and freedom. She could not give that up for anything, not even approval from her elders. One evening, she and Ethan climbed to the tallest terrace, where the wind carried the scent of distant stars. They looked out at the city, now calm under the three moons, and Leora felt the weight of the world around her. "They are preparing to challenge you again," Ethan said, his voice soft. "The council will not allow this easily." "I know," Leora replied, "but I have already chosen. I will not step back." Ethan took her hands in his expression full of trust. "Then we face it together. The world may resist, but we have something stronger than fear. We have each other." Days later, the council issued an ultimatum. Leora was given a choice: retract her bond with the human or face exile from her society. Her family pleaded, her peers whispered warnings, but she remained firm. "I will not retract my choice," Leora said calmly. "I choose to follow my heart, even if it means leaving everything I have known." The elders were shocked. Never before had someone openly defied the council in such a manner. Some whispered that she was reckless, others that she was brave. But one thing was clear: Leora's courage had sparked something unexpected, a seed of change in the minds of those who observed her. In the days that followed, other aliens began to question their traditions. Quiet conversations emerged, small gestures of support. Some admired Leora's bravery, secretly wishing they could make their own choices without fear of judgment. The council's strict rules seemed less absolute, their authority slightly diminished by the sheer force of Leora's conviction. Amid this tension, Leora realized that her feelings for Ethan were no longer just private affection, they were a symbol of change. Their bond was proof that love, trust, and choice could challenge even the most rigid traditions. One night, as the city slept under the silver glow of the moons, Leora and Ethan sat on the terrace, holding hands. The air was filled with the scent of flowers and the quiet hum of the city below. "I feel something is shifting," Leora whispered. "Not just for me, but for everyone who has ever felt trapped by rules. Maybe we can make a difference." Ethan nodded. "That is the human way. We believe in the power of courage, of standing for what is right. And sometimes it takes one person to show others that change is possible." Leora smiled, a mixture of hope and determination. "Then we must be that example. We must show them that choice, love, and trust are stronger than fear and tradition." The next day, the council convened again, this time with a new sense of uncertainty. Leora's defiance had inspired quiet murmurs of support among the younger generation of aliens. Some elders were uncomfortable, unsure of how to respond to a challenge so bold. "You cannot ignore the power of love," Leora said during the meeting, her voice clear and strong. "It can unite worlds, bring understanding, and create harmony. I have found that power in a human, and I will not turn away from it." Her words reverberated through the chamber. Some aliens shifted uncomfortably, others exchanged glances, and a few nodded subtly, recognizing the truth in her message. Ethan stood beside her, silent but steady, embodying the support and trust that had carried her through every challenge. Together, they represented a new possibility, a world where different species, traditions, and beliefs could come together through understanding and choice. The council could not fully oppose them. Leora's courage, combined with the human example of empathy and respect, had created a force that even tradition could not easily suppress. And so, a decision was made. Leora would be allowed to continue her bond with Ethan as a trial, a symbol of change for her society. It was unprecedented, controversial and daring, but it was a beginning. Leora felt a mixture of relief and triumph. She had stood firm, faced the consequences, and begun to reshape her world, not with violence or anger, but with courage, honesty, and love. That night, she and Ethan watched the 3 moons rise over the city, their light reflecting in the pools of the terrace. The air was still, the world calm, and yet filled with the promise of transformation. "We did it," Leora said softly, leaning against him. "Not just for us, but for everyone who has ever felt trapped by rules." Ethan smiled. "Yes, and it is only the beginning. The future is wide open. Together we can explore it, shape it, and inspire others along the way." Leora took a deep breath, feeling the wind on her face, the warmth of his hand in hers, and the infinite possibilities ahead. She had chosen her heart over fear, love over obedience, and truth over tradition. And now the world around her had begun to change. Some aliens were still wary, some skeptical, and some even angry. But change had begun. And as Leora gazed at the stars beyond her city, she knew that this was only the start of a journey that would reshape her life, her society, and perhaps even the galaxy itself. She and Ethan sat together, hands entwined, hearts aligned, ready to face whatever came next. And for the first time, Leora felt a profound certainty. The power of choice, the strength of love, and the courage to defy tradition could indeed change everything. The city hummed with a mixture of tension and anticipation. Leora walked through the streets, her head held high, yet her heart thumped with excitement. Today was the day she would make her choice known to the world, not just to herself, not just to Ethan. Today she would declare her bond openly, without fear, without hesitation. The council had granted her a rare permission, a trial to show that love could exist beyond the rigid rules of tradition. Many were skeptical. Some whispered that this union could never last, that humans were weak, unpredictable, and incapable of understanding their customs. Others watched curiously, their eyes reflecting a mixture of hope and disbelief. Leora felt none of the doubt. She had walked a long path to get here, facing whispers, threats, and the weight of centuries of tradition. Every step had strengthened her resolve. She had chosen this path, and she would see it through. Ethan waited for her on the tallest terrace, where the city stretched below in a web of silver and gold light. The 3 suns cast their final glow across the towers, bathing everything in warm, shimmering colors. His eyes lit up when he saw her approach, and a smile spread across his face. "You're ready," he said quietly. "I am," Leora replied, her voice steady. "No matter what happens, I cannot turn back now. I am choosing you, and I am choosing myself." Ethan reached for her hand. "Then let us face it together." The ceremony was simple, yet profound. They stood together on the terrace, hands entwined, surrounded by both humans and aliens who had come to witness the unprecedented event. Some were curious, some disapproving, but all were watching closely. Leora stepped forward, her violet eyes shining in the light of the setting suns. She took a deep breath, feeling the wind brush her silver hair. "I stand here today," she began, her voice carrying across the terrace, "not to defy tradition for the sake of defiance, but to honor what is true. I have found a bond that transcends rules, appearances, and fear. I have chosen to love freely, to trust, and to connect with someone who sees me as I am." Murmurs spread through the crowd. The elders exchanged uneasy glances. Some aliens shifted in their seats, unsure how to react. But Leora did not falter. She turned to Ethan, her heart pounding. "Ethan," she said softly, yet firmly, "I have chosen you. Will you stand with me as my partner, my equal, my husband?" Ethan's smile widened, his dark eyes reflecting warmth, trust, and love. He nodded, his voice clear and strong. Yes, Leora. I will. I choose you. Now and always. A silence fell over the terrace, profound and heavy with meaning. Then, slowly, the crowd began to react. Some gasped in shock, some whispered in awe, and a few of the elders nodded subtly, recognizing the courage it took to defy expectation and speak the truth of the heart. The ceremony continued with quiet celebration. Humans and aliens alike shared in the moment, witnessing a union that had never been seen before. It was more than a personal bond. It was a statement, a challenge, a hope for a future where choice and understanding could prevail. Afterward, Leora and Ethan walked through the city, hand in hand. The reactions were mixed. Some aliens approached with curiosity, asking questions about humans and the meaning of love and choice. Others remained skeptical, their whispers following the couple like shadows. But the tide was changing. The younger generation of aliens, inspired by Leora's courage, began to question their rigid traditions quietly, dreaming of a world where they too could choose freely. Leora's family had grown to accept her choice, even if reluctantly at first. Her mother had tears in her eyes, a mix of worry and pride. "You have shown great courage, Leora," she said softly. "I see now. The heart can be stronger than tradition." Her father, usually stern and unwavering, nodded silently, a rare smile crossing his face. "You have chosen wisely, daughter. You have the strength to shape your own destiny." With each step, Leora felt a sense of freedom unlike anything she had ever known. She had defied centuries of rules, faced the judgment of her society, and emerged stronger and more certain than ever before. And by her side, Ethan stood as her equal, her partner, and her source of unwavering support. In the days that followed, Leora and Ethan became symbols of change. They traveled across the city, speaking to those willing to listen about the power of choice, the value of love, and the courage to follow one's heart. Some humans joined them, sharing stories of human societies built on trust and freedom. Some aliens began to experiment with new ideas, embracing cooperation and understanding rather than rigid hierarchy. The city, once strict and unyielding, began to feel different. Conversations became more open, rules became less oppressive, and the younger generation began to dream of possibilities beyond the limitations they had always known. Leora's courage had sparked a quiet revolution, not of violence or anger, but of awareness and hope. One evening, she and Ethan climbed to their favorite terrace overlooking the city under the soft glow of the moons. The air was cool, filled with the scent of flowers and the distant hum of alien life. "We've come far," Leora said softly, leaning against Ethan. "Yes," he agreed, his hand resting gently on hers. "But this is only the beginning. There are worlds beyond this city, beyond this planet waiting to be explored, and we will explore them together." Leora smiled, her violet eyes reflecting the moon's light. "I never imagined life could be like this, free, full of choice, full of love. I am happy." "And you deserve it," Ethan said softly. "You fought for it and now it is yours. Not because anyone allowed it, but because you chose it." The days turned into weeks, and Leora and Ethan began to travel beyond the city, visiting distant planets and learning from other civilizations. Humans shared their knowledge of technology, exploration, and cooperation, while Leora shared the wisdom of her people, their art, history, and understanding of the stars. Together, they led joint missions between humans and aliens, fostering cooperation and understanding that had never existed before. Old barriers began to crumble as species learned from one another, inspired by the example of two individuals who had dared to follow their hearts. Leora's story spread across the HFY galaxy. Young aliens spoke in whispers about the silver-skinned woman who defied tradition and chose love. Humans marveled at her courage, and in the hearts of many, a new belief began to take root, that choice, trust, and love could change even the most rigid societies. Years later, Leora and Ethan returned to their city, older, wiser, and still deeply in love. The city had changed dramatically. New customs allowed individuals to choose their own partners. Rules became flexible, guided by understanding rather than fear. Aliens and humans collaborated in exploration, trade, and education. Leora's courage had left a lasting mark. One evening, as the three suns set and the moons rose, Leora and Ethan stood together on their favorite terrace. She gazed at the horizon, feeling the wind brush her silver hair, the warmth of his hand in hers, and the vastness of the galaxy stretching before them. "We've come far," she said, her voice soft but full of conviction. "And yet, there is so much more to see, to learn, to experience." Ethan smiled. "And we will do it together. Always." Leora turned to him, her violet eyes reflecting the moon's light. "I never thought I would find a place where I truly belonged, and now I have found it. With you, with the people who chose to see me, and with the universe waiting beyond the stars." He kissed her gently, a promise of shared adventures, trust, and love. "Then let's see what lies ahead." As the city glowed below, humans and aliens alike working side by side, Leora felt a profound sense of fulfillment. She had defied tradition, followed her heart, and in doing so inspired change that would ripple across generations. The stars stretched endlessly above, a reminder of the infinite possibilities of life, choice, and love. And together, hand in hand, Leora and Ethan stepped into the future, a future they had chosen, a future they would shape, a future that proved that courage, love, and the human spirit could indeed change the galaxy.